Hi everyone and welcome to the Sisu Sisters Podcast.
I'm Annukka, a LinkedIn coach.
And I'm Dorita, a business English coach.
Our podcast is all about succeeding, with themes like life stories and light bulb moments.
Welcome to Sisu Sisters Podcast. I'm Dorita, and with me in Finland I have my co-host Annukka. Today we're really excited to welcome our guest, Neil Bastian. Welcome, Neil.
Hi, Dorita. Hi, Annukka. How are you today?
We are excited to speak to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Welcome, Neil. Could you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Neil Bastian, and I'm a musical theatre writer. I write book, music, and lyrics.
Excellent. And that's exactly why we've asked you to come on this podcast. Because not everybody writes musicals, and you've written a few.
Yes,
Can
I
you
have.
tell us how did you end up writing a musical? And is your background in musical theatre?
No, my background is not in musical theatre. I've always loved music, pop music, musicals. It's always been in my household. You know, my parents loved music. My brother's in a band. It's in the family, but my day job was never writing musical theatre. But about 10 years ago, my friend James Jones, who is a fantastic composer for television, he does the background music on documentaries and dramas. He had always wanted to do a James Bond theme, and they announced that the new Bond film was going to be called Spectre. And so I rang James and said, James, now is the time for you to write your Bond theme. Call it Spectre and send it off. You never know. So because I'd written a lot of novels and plays, he saw me as a words guy. He said, well, I will write the song, but only if you write the lyrics. So I said, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a whirl. So he came up with this amazing melody, but I was writing the lyrics independently of him. And while I was writing the lyrics, I couldn't help thinking of melodies at the same time as I was writing the lyrics. So we did one in a Sam Smith kind of style, because the rumor was Sam Smith would be doing the song, which was extremely sort of naive of us, because as if Sam Smith would say, hey everyone, there's these two unknown writers who've never written a song before. Let's use their song instead of mine for the Bond theme. That was never going to happen. Anyway, so we wrote one in a Sam Smith style. And then we said, what if they get Shirley Bassey back to do it instead of Sam Smith? Because he was just rumoured to be doing it. So we did one in a Shirley Bassey style. And again, I was writing the lyrics and I kept thinking of melodies at the same time. But then James did a brilliant melody, so we used that. And then there was another singer called Cynthia Erivo that we both loved, and she's now a massive star. She's in the Wicked films. We used to go and see her in tiny little venues in London. So we wrote a song for her, and again, as I was writing the lyrics, the melodies were coming into my head. Then James got busy. Cut a long story short, of course, the James Bond people didn't use our song. They did use Sam Smith's. Shirley Bassey didn't make a comeback to Bond. Anyway, so that summer I was between jobs, and this writing with James sparked a songwriting passion in me. I wrote about, 15 songs that summer because I was between jobs, so I had time. I was looking for a job, and I just found myself falling in love with songwriting. So I had a bunch of songs, and they were in a kind of Shirley Bassey kind of style. I sent them off to Shirley Bassey's musical director, and he said, "Oh, there's some merit in these, but I'm not going to send them on to Dame Shirley." So I thought, well, I've got a bunch of songs. What am I going to do with them? So I thought, why don't I make them into like a musical? And then, so that they were very cliched, sort of woman falls in love with a guy who thinks he's great, but he turns out to be a love rat, and you know, it all comes crashing down, but she will live to fight another day. That kind of, you know, a bit cliched, really, to be honest. But they were just my early attempts at writing songs. And I thought, why don't I write a story that's not as cliched? So eventually I had to ditch most of the songs and write fresh songs for a new story about a woman who had given her child up for adoption. It's called Force 10 Gale. And that was the first musical I wrote. So that's how I ended up writing musicals, by sheer chance. I had
And
suggested my friend write a song. We wrote a song together. Then I just fell in love with songwriting.
I just love this, that you aimed straight for James Bond. You know, there wasn't like any sort of, oh, let's get in touch with some unknown singer. No,
Yeah,
let's go for James Bond. Let's go for Dame Shirley Bassey.
I know.
Right.
Oh,
So we've got to talk about your latest musical. We all
yes,
have some sunflowers behind
yes,
us.
yes,
Um, so you have just written, well, or just written, it's you can tell me the story or tell us the story, a musical called Vinnie and Paul, The Rise and
yes.
Fall of Vinnie and Paul,
That's
which,
right.
which is about Vincent van Gogh
Yes,
against the sunflowers and his
yes,
friend Paul Gauguin.
correct.
How, where do you start when you decide I'm going to write a musical? You know, where do you start with the story? Do you start with the music, with the lyrics, with the actors? With what do you start with? What is the
Yeah.
process?
Yes. Well, in this case, uh, I had worked with a singer called Charlie McCullough on some demos for Force 10 Gale and the previous one I was talking about.
Hmm.
And I thought, oh my God, he's a brilliant singer. And then I worked with another singer called Max Alexander Taylor on another demo for another show that I'd written called The Mayfly Man. And he was a brilliant singer. He was knockout. And I found out that they went to the same drama college together, the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, and they're in the same year as each other. They knew each other. So then they were in my head as a pair. One of them is like dark haired, one of them is blonde. Do you know what I mean? They seemed like a pair. I could imagine their voices blending. They both got beautiful voices. And so it came from, I want to write something for these two singers. That's where the genesis of the show was. So that I then researched famous historical male friendships. I did like a Google search, I think it was, and it came up with a list of friendships, and Van Gogh and Paul Gauguin was one of them. I did A-level art, which included a lot of art history. So I knew the Van Gogh story, and I knew about Paul Gauguin sharing a house with Van Gogh. And it was, the idea was to set up an artist colony in the south of France. It was Vincent van Gogh's idea, but it all went within 8 weeks. By the end of the 8 weeks, Vincent had cut his own ear off, and Paul Gauguin had fled. So I just thought, what on earth? How could you go from such an exciting, let's start an artist colony, to something so blood curdling and dark? You know, something so positive, something so dark in 8 weeks. And I thought, that's the sort of material that's, you know, as soon as I saw Van Gogh and Paul Gauguin in that list, I remembered all that. And I thought, oh yeah, that sings because it's high emotions, it's dark emotions, it's you know, it's over the, it's a very big, because it's about madness, you know, and stuff like that, and artists. It's got a theatrical vibe to it. So I just went straight for that one. And yeah, but the inspiration was actually the two brilliant singers. That was the reason I started it.
That's not what I would have expected. I thought you were going
No,
to say something different, that, oh, you know, I started with the story or I started with the songs or something. So it started
yeah,
from the actors. I found that
yes,
really interesting.
yeah, yeah,
So you then write the musical with these two chaps in mind.
yeah,
Um, but obviously you need to get this on stage, you need to what talk us through this, because none of us have written a musical. We don't understand how, what are the steps you have to take
Yeah,
to even
yeah,
get it on stage. And I mean,
y-
London, with over 40 theatres, with
mm,
musicals left, right, and centre.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's not easy. I will say that for a start. You've got to be very determined and resilient because, well, there are lots of different ways to sort of get your work on stage. One of the ways, obviously, is if you are a wealthy person, you could invest some of your own savings. So, in fact, I had some savings because I was working during COVID from working from home, but I couldn't spend my money. So, I started to get a lot of savings together. So, I had enough savings to make a concept album of all the songs. So, I was writing the songs in my spare time, and eventually I had 20 songs, and I had enough money to pay Max and Charlie to sing the 20 songs. So that was a bedrock for me, was to have something to send out to people. Now, I was lucky because I had savings at that point. I haven't got any anymore, unfortunately, but I had savings to make 20 recordings. But if you've got enough money to make one recording or two recordings, I would advise getting a professional singer to sing your songs. And there are lots of young singers in all the big cities. I don't know where you are in the world watching this, but if you're in a major city, there's usually a theatre scene. There's usually young actors and drama schools, and you could pay not unreasonable amounts of money to get them to record one song. Um, most 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 musicians, some musicians have the recording skills themselves, but if they don't, like, there's often like music colleges or that want to train people, so you could maybe approach a music college that has recording facilities as a training exercise for students. That's a way to, if you haven't got much of a budget, that kind of thing. Approaching music theatre colleges is a really good idea. See where that gets you. There's also crowdfunding, and that's how we funded Vinnie and Paul. So we set up a crowdfunding site, and you just have to approach all your friends and family. I mean, it's like, it depends how many people you know. Because I'm a bit older, I know a lot of people by now, literally, because I'm in middle age. So, but if you're younger, you literally don't know as many people to contact, so it's less easy. But of course, you use social media as well to just get the message out there. I'm crowdfunding. But crucially, you definitely have to have one or two demos, because nobody's going to fund you with no examples of your work. So you've got to, I mean, if you can afford a video, we've all got phones these days. Just a video of someone singing the song in front of a microphone is fine. If the song is good enough, that's all you need. That's all you need. If you got money for something a bit more special, then a bit more complicated, that's fine too. Definitely have demos, preferably video, because of TikTok and all that. So in the case of my show, I didn't have a producer for it. I was touting it around for years, 2.5 years. So I was sending it to independent theatrical producers. The way you find out their names is simply by being a theatre fan. You follow people on social media and you get to know who the theatre producers are. If you've got a theatrical program, the name of the producers is always in the program, or the official website of the shows. They will have cast and creatives and produced by. So you just do a bit of detective work, and you can contact any theatrical company. So I did that. Try independent producers, also artistic directors that run buildings who commission shows, which is slightly different to a producer. Because they've got some money sometimes from public funding to put shows on. But there is a lot of competition. So it takes, also, you don't know if you send an email out with a pitch on it, with a short blurb about what the show's about, who's in it, or who you've got attached to it, a link to the video or 2 links, preferably. Maybe 3. I would say not more than 3. I think more than 3 songs is probably overload. And you send emails out, but you don't know how many emails these people are getting. They might not even read. If you don't get a reply, it might not be that your work is bad. It might be that they just haven't read your email. It can be very dispiriting when you're so passionate about your project. But keep going, because put yourself in the way of chances. So enter competitions. Wherever you live, especially in the big cities, there are competitions, song festivals, open mic nights. So I didn't have a producer for Vinnie and Paul, but I went to the Mercury Musical Theatre open mic night in January of this year and sang a song from Vinnie and Paul. And there was this guy and his wife was sat on my table. I didn't know them. And this guy, Jonathan, said, I like that song. In fact, I recognized the title of your show when you mentioned it, because I saw your other song being performed at the Styles and Drew Prize night, because I was nominated for a songwriting award and he was there. So he'd now seen 2 songs of mine. And I said, I'm crowdfunding it at the moment. So if you want to come and see it, come and see it. I didn't know he works in theatre, but he's not a producer, or he wasn't a producer. Anyway, 2 days later, he got back to me, Jonathan, and said, Neil, I've been to your website. I've listened to all your demos, and I've been looking for a project to produce my first musical, and this is it. Would you be interested in me producing the musical? So after 2.5 years of approaching people directly, this curveball came along, and it's because I had stuff on my website to see, and I put myself in the way of being seen. I entered competitions. I went to open mic nights. So I think that's really important in your local theatre scene, to be part of that scene, to show that you're serious, to have examples of your work.
I'm going to throw this over now to Annukka, because Annukka, you build people's personal brands for them. This sounds like exactly the sort of stuff that you say to them.
Yes, it does. It is just the same.
Put yourself out there. You've got to have this, you've got to have that. So it I know it's art and it's music and it's different, but on one hand, it isn't different. It's still a business pitch you have to send out.
Yes, you are selling yourself. You're selling yourself that you're a serious writer who can deliver something professional and that people will want to see. Now, not every personality is of that persuasion. Some people are much more introverted, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's not necessarily a bad thing, in the sense that you can, if you've got demos, your singer is selling your stuff. If your work is, the dream is that if the work is good, people will respond eventually. And if you've got great singers, like a lot of songwriters are not great singers. Like Burt Bacharach, if you've ever heard him sing, he's got a really scratchy voice, or did. A lot of really famous songwriters are bad singers. So they, don't put demos of yourself singing the songs. If you're a bad singer, you're going to have to save some money, but not much. Most young actors, certainly, or even more experienced actors, are happy to do new material for some money, or even just a pizza and some beers. They might do it. You know what I mean? Because because a lot of actors can sight read, so they don't need a long time to rehearse. Others do, and that's fine as well.
Yeah. And they get visibility as well,
Yes,
you
it's
know,
something
so
for their CV. It's something
yeah,
exactly. I mean,
yeah.
I always try and when I've got money, I will always pay people what I can afford. But if you're a student, you can't. You've got rent, you've got your fees. You can't afford to pay people, but you may be able to call on favors from another student who's in your building that's doing the singing part of the. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
don't
so
exploit people.
no,
You
don't
know?
exploit people. Exactly.
Yeah,
If you can afford to pay them, pay them.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've actually seen the musical or the 1 hour, whatever you
Yes,
wanna call
I
it, trial run.
remember. We had a nice
Yeah,
chat afterwards.
we did, and that's when I accosted you and asked you whether you would come on this podcast. So that was a 1 hour sort of like part musical at the Glitch Theatre in London, which is like a sort of in the cellar, 50 people
Yes,
in the
yes.
audience. I'm not just saying this because you're on our podcast, but I absolutely did love the musical. But
Oh, thank you.
how
Thanks,
do we
Dorita.
now get it from that 1 hour trial run
Mm.
to the West End, to the shows that every tourist and everybody from Finland who comes to London, they go and see the show? How does that happen?
Well, that's the arcane art of the producer. So I'm a writer. I'm not a producer. So Jonathan, who produced the 1 hour version, luckily he wants to continue with the project. So in fact, next week I'm taking leave from my day job and I'm going to be finishing the full length version. And he is then going to raise money. Now, how producers raise money is a mystery, but a lot. So there's things like the Arts Council funding. Most sort of governments have some sort of arts funding that you can apply for. So there's Arts Council funding is one route, but there's also the traditional. You probably heard the term angels, which is a theatrical term for people who put money into shows. So what happens is producers tend to form relationships with wealthy people who love the arts and then try and get them to invest in the show. So it's a kind of quite a long process to get the money together. I mean, it's not a huge budget compared to it's a two-man show, so it's not going to take a massive budget. But even a two-man show, once you've got a band of 4 or 5 people with musicians union rates, and if say you want to do a 2-month run, that's going to cost a lot of money, even for a small scale show. So they producers sometimes get another producer, a co-producer who might, or say you could, if you're a producer with a strong idea, you could get a building to put up half the money. Say we will do a month run with your show in our building if you bring half the money in to rent our space, or they might say you can have our space for free, but you have to bring the rest of the budget in, that kind of stuff. So that's called this co-production. It's I'm not a producer, so
No.
but I would say as the writer, you ideally you have to get the interest of a producer because they're the ones who really make it happen. They get it on stage. If you can't get a producer involved, then as I say, I was expecting to have to produce it myself, which is a whole different skill set from writing. So I'd started the crowdfunder, but luckily Jonathan came on board and then he took over the running of the show. But I would have had to do that myself. And a lot of people I know have got their show on by producing it themselves. Now that adds a lot of pressure because you have to learn a lot of skills that you don't have as a writer. But it's a route. It's a very valid route. You've crowdfunded. you have to get people's contracts drawn up, agreements, insurance, all that stuff. But it's possible to do it yourself if you can't find a producer for your project.
Yeah. Right. So we're now coming to the point of the interview where we're asking you your sort of 3 top takeaways, or, what. First of all, I guess one question would be like, and you touched upon this, putting yourself out there. Would that be one of your sort of takeaways,
Yeah.
persistence, or?
Yes. That is my top takeaway, because you've got to put yourself in the way of opportunity. So yeah, I'm slightly repeating myself, this is slightly related, but not quite the same. Picasso said something like, along the lines of, inspiration doesn't always strike, but when it does, I want to be at work. So he was always in his studio. He put the time in. So, if he was not devoting lots of time every week to his art, then he wouldn't be around when inspiration struck. So it's a flip side of that in a way. But yeah, you have to put yourself in the way of opportunities. So open mic nights and competitions in your local area. That's definitely my top. And also there are songwriting learn training things. There's a one that I've been on for ages called Book, Music and Lyrics in London. It's a very reasonably priced musical theatre songwriting evening class that I'd be doing for nearly 10 years. And you just share your work with people, and they give you feedback and say, no, I don't think that's working. I think you need to do this. I think, the skills of writing a musical theatre song are different to writing a pop song, because they have to move the story along. They have to, some songs can be just standalone, but a lot of musical theatre songs have to do more than just express emotions. They often have to carry plot as well. So I would say definitely there's in Britain, there's Book, Music and Lyrics. In New York, I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called, to be honest, but it's I can't remember, but you can look it up after. Lots of famous musical theatre people have been on it, on the American version. It's been going for decades. And I'm sure most major cities will have some sort of musical theatres that have a musical theatre tradition. I don't know what it's like in Finland, but
I have to admit, I don't know either. Do you, Annukka?
No, but I know that there's something like you have like music camps, like musiikkileiri.
yes. Yeah.
And you go there but it's not. I suppose it's not about musicals. It's more like writing songs with some guru.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So learning the craft, because I think a lot of people who write songs, standalone like pop songs, might be surprised at how much work you have to put into a musical theatre song. Probably more work than a pop song, because it has to fit in to a whole evening and be curated with all the other songs. So yeah, and get your craft polished, and see loads of musicals, so that you can get to see the shape of musicals. Like there's often some common elements. Like there's often the I Want song, which is usually the second song. They call it the I Want song. Funny enough, in my hour-long version, it wasn't in it. I won't explain, but there's usually a song where the main character states what they want, and then the rest of the show is them trying to get what they want, and then you have obstacles to what they want being presented to them. So in the long version of Vinnie and Paul, there's a song called Our Little Yellow House, where Vinnie is saying, I'm going to start my artist colony. It's going to be great. He's just about to arrive. It's going to be amazing. I won't be on my own anymore. This is going to be amazing. And it's what he wants. He wants to start an artist colony and have a companion. And that's what he's trying to achieve. But sadly, because it's a tragedy, he doesn't achieve it. But so yeah, there's lots of craft you can learn to get better and better. And yeah, getting feedback from other writers is really good. Or even, friends who love the arts, who have opinions about the arts, might be able to give you helpful feedback on your work.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not a writer of songs, you are an audience member, a consumer of songs, and that opinion is valid as well, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. You've given us some really good hints and tips here, and because one of the questions I think you've answered, Annukka's question was, what would you say to somebody wanting to follow your footsteps? And you've actually just touched upon everything they have to do. I think we've got like a white paper here, like Neil Bastian says, this is what you need to do. If you're a budding songwriter, musical theatre writer, this is what you need to do.
Yeah, go and see shows. And if you can't afford to go and see shows, see the films of the shows. Yeah, and bad shows also teach you things.
Yes,
they encourage you because they think, I can see why that's not working, so I won't do that for my show.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like I say to people that sometimes a bad job can help you in that sense that you go like, well, at least I know now I don't want to be in that branch or in that sector anymore. So yeah. So lastly, Neil, what's happening next in your life, and what can we expect, and tell us a little bit about that. And obviously we will link to this podcast episode both on YouTube and on Spotify, some of your songs and to your musical. So
thank you. I mean, next I am doing the full-length draft of Vinnie and Paul, and finishing off some songs that I've started that I'm not quite happy with. So that's all. We're all guns blazing to get the next version on stage. So where are we now? It's nearly October 2025. So hopefully there might be some news at some point in 2026 of a run. That's what we're hoping for. So that's next. And I also I've got two other musicals, The Mayfly Man and Force 10 Gale. The Mayfly Man, I'm hoping to get a musical theatre university that does a training for musical theatre performers. I'm hoping to get a version of that into a university next year. I'm in talks about that at the moment. So there's a few things going on and I want to get some new demos done for Force 10 Gale, because I haven't got any demos for the two female characters. I haven't got any demos for them yet, and I really need to sort that out. So I've got to save a bit of money for that. Very excited though.
Or crowdfund.
Yeah, I mean, crowdfunding, another thing I would mention, I would say possibly you can only crowdfund once for one show, because you don't want to ask your family and friends again, really. I would say. Well, I don't want to anyway.
I know.
Because I've had lots of generous donations from friends, and it was very moving, actually. People are very kind.
But I do understand what you're saying, that, there comes a point where you sort of like, oh, I daren't ask again.
Yeah.
So this has been just so interesting. I find this very interesting, and I think our listeners will enjoy this as well, because you've just opened up a world that we knew nothing about.
Oh, cool. I'm glad to have given an insight. I mean, I'm sort of I would say not early stage, but I'm still in the smaller productions kind of area. I'm not a West End Broadway, but it's all a sort of a ladder, I guess. And it's just so much fun. It's hard work, because you have to. The writing is to get it right. You have to put the hours in. So you've got to do that. So it's hard work, but it's so much fun as well. So do it. If you've got an inkling, go for it. It's such a great thing to spend your time doing. Even if you've got a full-time job, which I have, you know, you can do it on weekends. You can work, you know, if you've got a family, it's trickier. There's less time, but you can maybe find some time, some protected time on a Sunday morning every week with an agreement with your partner. Maybe just get chipping away at the work and keep writing.
Thank you. Very wise words. Thank you, Neil, for coming on to this podcast.
My pleasure.
We hope to see the show in 2026, and then we can tell everyone when you're very, very famous and in the Western Inlander, we can tell everybody he was a guest on Sisu Sisters Podcast.
I really hope that comes true, I have to admit.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Great chatting to you both.
His story is so incredible because I think most of us, we wouldn't even think about writing a musical and wouldn't have an idea of how you even get a musical produced. I found it really, really interesting. And one of the sort of takeaways maybe for me was persistence, which really translates to every business, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I wrote down that when he was talking about the producing and producer of the musical, I was thinking that I am a producer for personal branding.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I thought about, and I wrote it down because I have to start using it in my LinkedIn posts.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. And I was thinking when he was talking about the pitch and when he was saying, oh, don't put more than 3 links in it and keep it brief. And I thought this is like any business pitch.
Yes.
There's no difference whether this is a musical or you're trying to go for an open job, you know, thing or whatever it is, you know, the rules are the same.
They are the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And how you have to get somebody to believe in you to
and
get.
then you have to and to become lucky, you have to be visible, and you have to be findable.
Yeah, findable.
And
Exactly.
Yeah, findable. Yeah. You can't be found anyways if you are not findable.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to have your, whether it's a video, but your demos, you need to have your website. Yeah, people need to find you. And like he was saying about the producer guy who said, oh, I've seen you at this awards thing. So now it was sort of like doubly, you know, a double impact on this guy. I've seen you somewhere else. You're singing your song here. Now I'm starting to think I know who you are and what you're doing, and I believe in you. So, yeah, very, very interesting.
It was.
Yep. So, that's all for today. Where can we find you? And obviously, we're going to link to Neil's website on this podcast. But where can we find you, Annukka, if somebody wants to look you up and wants to have a little look at what you can do with their personal branding?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Annukka Toivonen, and then you can find me on Instagram, Annukka Toivonen. And I also have a website. It's called vacanti.fi.
Brilliant.
And what about you?
So
Dorita?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Dorita Dahl-Foreman, and I also have a website and an Instagram account under the name English with Dorita. And of course, the podcast has got LinkedIn page, Instagram page, and we've got our website as well, where you can find season 1 and season 2 episodes. That's all from us, and all that there is left to say is it's over and out from me here in the UK.
And it's goodbye from me here from Finland.